Hi, welcome to RAMESH SOFT video tutorials. In this video tutorial, we'll talk about what is finally, finalize in Java, right? So let's go one by one. Now we'll see, first we'll talk about final. So final is a keyword which is applicable for variables, methods and classes. So first we'll talk about final versus variables. Final versus variables. Now let me take one example. I am declaring int a is equal to 10. So if we want, we can change the values of these variables. That means we can perform reassignment of that variables. So if you don't want to perform reassignment of that variables, then declare such kind of variables as final. Now once we declared a variable as a final, when you try to perform reassignment of that variable, we will get a compile time error. That is, once we declare a variable as a final, our compiler won't allow to perform reassignment of that variable. Let me put these things into the Eclipse. So let me take one class, new class, and create I'm giving some class name as a variable test. Now just observe what I'm doing. So let me take the main method. Then here let me declare one local variable. I'm taking int a is equal to 100. Now see here, if we let me print on the console. So the value of a is now I'm printing plus a. Now if I run this program, I'm going to get the output as 100. Let me run as Java application. Yes. Now see here. So we are getting the output as a 100. Now let me change the value of this variable. So I'm changing a is equal to now 900. Now print the value SYSO of. After changing the value of a is, let me print that value. Now let me execute the program, run as Java application. Now see here, so now we are getting the output as 100. Previously it is 100. Now we are able to perform reassignment or not? Yes. Now I don't want to perform this reassignment. I don't want to allow anyone to perform reassignment of this variable. So simple, declare this variable as final. So the moment we declare the variable as a final, we cannot perform reassignment of that variable. When you try to perform any reassignment of that variable, we will get a compile time error. Just put cursor over on this here. See here, what is the message we are getting? The final local variable a cannot be assigned. It must be blank or not using what? Compound assignment. So whenever we declare a variable as a final, we cannot perform reassignment of that variable. So if you try to perform reassignment of variable, we will get a compile time error. So this is about final variables, right? So this is a variable is what type of variable? Local variable. Let me declare one global variable as well. So I'm taking here string some variable name is equal to, I'm taking it as a Java. So we know that we can access non-static variables inside here through what? Object. So let me create the object. Something test is equal to new final variable test. Now let me print that value SYSO of test dot name. Now if I call this what is the output I'm going to get here? Java, I'm going to get the output. Now let me declare this one as a final. Now before that final, just observe here what I'm doing. Now let me change that value. So test dot name is equal to, now I'm changing it to Selenium. Now I won't get any issues because this name variable is not final. So we can perform reassignment of that variable without any issues. Now let me declare this variable as a final. Now see here what is happening. Now see here. So we are getting what? Compile time error. That means either it is a local variable or it is a global variable. Once we declare it as a final, we cannot change, we cannot perform reassignment of that variable. So if we try to perform reassignment of that variables, we will get compile time error. So this is about final versus variables. Now final is applicable for methods as well. Just see here. So whenever we declare a method as a final, we cannot perform overriding in the child class. That is, we cannot perform overriding of that method. Now see here, let me take one example and demonstrate. Let me demonstrate with one example so that we'll get clear idea on that. Now I'm taking one class final method test. Now see here. So let me take one class, create one class. I'm taking test1. Now let me take one example. So I'm creating one method as display, public void display. So what I'm doing, just observe here, sys of I'm writing welcome to RAMESH Soft. Now see here. So let me declare this method as a final. So first we'll see without declaring this method as a final. So now extends, I'm extending test1 class. So if we want, we can perform overriding of this method. Yes. Now see here what I'm doing. Now I'm overriding this method, right? So let me write at the rate override. Yes. Now I'm writing welcome to RAMESH Soft. We are masters in real-time training. Train. I'm changing some business implementations. Let's feel in that way. So now am I able to overriding this method or not? Yes. So I don't want to perform overriding of this method. Now see here, whenever we declare this method as a final, we cannot perform overriding in the child class or subclass. Now see here, when you try to perform overriding of that final method, we will get a compile time error. That means whenever we declare a method as a final, we cannot perform overriding of that method. So this is about final versus methods, right? And one more, final is also applicable for classes. That is, whenever we declare a class as a final, we cannot inherit that class. That is, we cannot perform inheritance. Now see here. So now just observe here what I'm doing. Now see here. So I'm changing my class as a final. So now see here, what is the compile time error we are getting? So remove final modifier of what? Test1. That is, whenever we declare a class as a final, we cannot extend that class. That is, inheritance is not possible, right? And one more usage of final versus class is, if you want to create immutable objects, so we can, by declaring our class as a final, we can create. So in going forward videos, we'll talk how to create mutable objects and immutable objects as a part of java.lang package in the strings and string buffer concepts. Okay. Now let me quickly revise things about final. So final is a keyword which is applicable for variables, methods and classes. Whenever we declare a variable as a final, we cannot perform reassignment of that variable. So whenever we declare a method as a final, we cannot perform overriding of that method in the child class. Whenever we declare a class as a final, we cannot extend that class. That is, inheritance is not possible, right? I think it's very clear. Good. Now we'll see about finally. The second is finally. Now finally is a block which is always associated with try catch blocks. So what is the theme of this finally block is whether we handle the exceptions or not, whether we get the exceptions or not, irrespective of the things, always our finally block is going to be executed before terminating our program, normally or abnormally. Let me write the syntax. Basically, we use this finally block to perform cleanup activities like database closing connections, like IO strings connections close, like scanner class is there, right? Once we create scanner class object, I want to close that scanner class. So if you want to close that scanner class objects, so we'll use final block. Let me go with one by one. Now let me write the syntax: try block and some risky code here, and then this is the corresponding catch block, something exception E, and then finally block. So in this finally block, we'll perform basically cleanup activities. We'll see what is programmatically how we'll perform cleanup activities and all those things, right? So let me take one example regarding this finally. So let me create one class, new class finally demo. Now just observe here what I'm doing. So I'm taking one class like file input stream FIP is equal to new file input stream. In this I'm passing some location of that path. And then let me surround this of risky code. So let me keep it try catch blocks. And I'm taking finally block. Let me take finally block. Now then close. Now see what I'm doing. If FIP is not equal to null, so it's taking it as a local variable is equal to null. So the scope of local variable is within the block only. So now if it is null, then close this dot close it. Right. So to perform cleanup activities, right? So some other case like if you want, you can go with file input streams, or some other examples like we'll go for scanner class, right? We'll use scanner scanner is equal to new scanner. So I'm writing here system dot in. Now I want to close this scanner class, right? So if you want to close this scanner class connections, I want to close it, right? So we'll write what is that? Finally block. So try. So let me keep this one as a part of, and then let me write finally. Now I'm writing if scanner is not equal to null, then close what object? Scanner object. Now I'm closing this one. So why I'm getting error? So this is becoming what now? Local variable, because we declared as a part of try. Let me make it as a main method level. Now, so local variable, right? When we are using it, initialization is mandatory. Now write what? Scanner dot close. So to perform cleanup activities, closing connections like. And one more example in the real time, very common, we use this example like database connections, right? So suppose let me take, so I'm writing in this way, just observe here what I'm doing. I think you people might familiar with JDBC. So people who don't have idea on JDBC, just watch my videos on JDBC tutorials. In YouTube you can get RAMESH SOFT by JDBC tutorials. And now see here what I'm doing here. So class, so let me take class dot for name. So I'm giving the class name here. So let me write driver manager dot establishing the connection user dot get a connection. So pass that URL, database URL, and then username, and then password, right? So let me keep those things as a part of try. So let me write finally block. So inside this I am trying to closing these connections is equal to, I'm going to get connection object, connection. Now see here what I'm doing here, and then so on with try catch block. So what I'm doing, just observe here. So let me declare this variables as global variables, local to the main method is equal to null. Let me remove it. Now I want to close these connections, whether my program is successfully, if my connection is established, once it is established, whether my program is terminal or normal termination or abnormal termination, irrespective of that, I want to close this connection. If connection is not equal to null, then close what? Connection. So with try catch block. That means finally is a block which is always associated with a try catch block. So the agenda of this finally, the theme of this finally block is, this finally block is always going to be executed irrespective of whether we handle the exception or not, whether we get the exception or not. So this finally block is always going to be executed before termination of our program. So we use this finally block to perform cleanup activities like database connection closing and input output reading operations. And now see here one more example I'll show you in Selenium. So in Selenium automation, where we use this finally kind of block, right? Now see here, let me take one class finally with the Selenium. So what I'm doing, just observe here, I'm taking one main method. Now we'll see how to use this finally block in Selenium, right? So let me take one example. So driver dot get off, so https://www.gmail.com. Now I'm taking one web element driver dot find element by dot id. So I'm not talking at framework level, so I'm talking normal way. Dot send keys. So I'm not doing any post validations and pre validation, just I'm writing a sample example. So now see here what I'm doing. Let me surround this one with a try block. So in Selenium basically we use like on every action I want to print some report, either the action is pass or whether the action is failed, that is the action is successfully done or not, something like I want to do it. So what I'm taking here is, let me take one boolean variable, boolean something b is equal to, I'm taking as a true. Yes, so once the action is done, it won't come to catch block. So if the action is failure, if the action is failed, then I'm making it will come to catch block, and I'm making that boolean value as false. Now I'm writing the finally block. Finally, so here what I'm doing is if of, so if of b, if true means I'm printing SYSO data typing action is done successfully on username web element. So here I'm printing success report. So here I'm printing success report, like success report. We'll see at framework level. So success report. So if it is false means else. So it is failure report. Failure report. SYSO of unable to perform data typing action. So here what happens, if the web element is there and the action is successfully done, so it won't come to catch block, and then it will come to finally block. So b is having what is the value? True. So it is success report. The case 2, it is unable to perform the action on this username web element. So it will come to catch block. Let will that element is not there. So we'll get exception. It will come to catch block. So whenever it is coming to catch block, I am making that value to false. So if false means it will come to else block. Now it is what? Failure report. So this is one area where we use finally in Selenium, right? And one more, we'll talk about finalize. So finalize is a method which is present in object to class. So finalize method is going to be called by garbage collector, which is the component of JVM. So before destroying any object, always garbage collector is going to execute finalize method to perform cleanup activities. Even the behavior of the usage of finally and finalize, it seems like same. That is, by using finally block, we can perform cleanup activities, as well as by using finalize method also we can perform cleanup activities. Like in finalize block also we can perform cleanup activities like closing the connections and resourcing, closing allocation, like a scanner class, file input stream class. But what is the difference means, we cannot guess the behavior of JVM, because finalize method is always going to be called by garbage collector, which is the component of JVM. That is, their behavior we cannot expect. That's why we don't write so we don't suggest to perform cleanup activities inside the finalize method. So once again let me talk. So finalize is a method which always called by garbage collector, which is the component of JVM. Before destroying any object, garbage collector calls finalize method to perform cleanup activities, that is releasing any system resources held, like closing connections if any open, right? So let me take one example. We'll see how we can use this finalize method. Yeah, let's see one example on finalize. So let's finalize method is there in object class. Whether we extends or not, every Java class extends object class by default. So for every Java class, object class is a super class. So even though if you don't extend, there is no problem. So by default your class is the parent class of child class of object class. So let me override it, public void finalize method. So inside it, let me take try and corresponding catch block, and let me throw and take finally block. Inside this finally block, let me write super, let me call finalize method of object class. So here I'm writing some statements like SYSO of try block in child class. Let me use, instead of child finalize test class, let me use child class, and here SYSO of finalize block and calling finalize method. So here we overridden finalize method, so object class finalize method won't be called. Now let me call this method. So first let me create object for it. Finalize test is equal to new finalize test. Now let's create one object and make it to garbage collector. Let's make it eligible for garbage collector. So let me take string str is equal to new string of, so I'm writing here, let me write here something, I'm writing qtp and make it to null. Now this object is eligible for garbage collector. Now let me call test dot finalize method. Now it's asking close declaration. Now see here, so I'm calling finalize method on test. So test it of type what? Finalize object. So in this one, is there any finalize method? Yes sir. So here we overdone finalize method of object to class. So now this method is going to be executed. Now see here, so right click, RAMESH Java application. So now see here, try block in child class and finalize block and calling what is that method? Finalize method. So this is the use of final, finally and finalize. So thanks for watching the videos. Please subscribe the videos. Thank you very much.